scary people, and welcome to the creepy corner of the interwebs. Or, if you're a regular, welcome back. Glad to see you again. I'm the resident ooky spooky girly Alexa, here today to branch out my knowledge and talk about cosmic horror. Not gonna lie to y'all, I had to do some digging this time since I wasn't 100% sure on the precise parameters at first. Cosmic horror, also known as Lovecraftian horror, is a literary horror subgenre created by H.P. Lovecraft, who described it simply as weird fiction. To elaborate, cosmic horror generally explores the insignificance of human existence compared to the vast universe. Specifically, Lovecraftian horror stories generally explore these themes through familiar characters or entities like the Great Old Ones, a set of destructive godlike figures outside the realm of full human comprehension, and the Elder Gods, which are divine entities representative of natural elements. The discovery of these figures thrusts the characters into a place where they must confront their lives' futility and utter insignificance. Now, while most folks consider Lovecraftian horror and cosmic horror the same thing, I'm determined to convince y'all that while we can't make this list without Lovecraft, there are some examples out there that aren't from him. I present to you all the top 5 cosmic horror monsters even demons fear. In 5th place we have Yibb-Tstill. Definitely had to look up how to pronounce that one to be safe since it's spelled out Yibb-Tstill, and I did not want to mess it up. It's a more obscure god, said to watch at the center of all time as the universe revolves, with only Yog-Sothoth being identified as wiser. Its bodily fluid, called the Black, is a weapon that takes the form of black snowflakes that stick to and smother victims. The god's touch causes an instant change in the person affected, usually fatal, but occasionally brings some benefit. With my betting odds, probably not worth the risk. Yibb-Tstill is visually described as an immobile, dark, tentacled entity with a pulpy alien head, detached eyes, and large bat wings under which countless night gaunts suck black milk from its innumerable, fleshy milk-producing body parts. Like many Lovecraftian horrors, including her fellow outer gods, the mere sight of this creature can drive humans insane, and even thinking too hard on the monstrous being is said to attract its malevolent intent. Okay, don't think about it. I know you're thinking. Don't think about it. In 4th place, we have the Gaiaphage. This is a personal favorite and not a Lovecraft creation. Also known as the Darkness, it's the main villain in the Phase universe from the Gone series by author Michael Grant. The story begins in the town of Perdido Beach, South California, when one day, out of seemingly nowhere, everyone over the age of 15 poofs without a trace. Literally, people are in class, and in the blink of an eye, the teacher and some students are just gone. A translucent globe forms a barrier around the town limits that no one can cross. And when people inside the globe age and reach the age of 15, they also risk poofing away suddenly. In this world, more than 1 million years ago, a race of life-worshipping aliens infected a dead moon with a carefully structured virus with the ability to affect the fabric of reality. They then exploded the moon, sending thousands of seedlings out into the universe in hopes that the virus would land on lifeless planets and create life. One of those fragments reached Earth approximately 1 million years later, hitting the Perdido Beach nuclear power plant, killing Tegan Smith, the father of Sam Temple, who was the main protagonist of this story. His corpse was driven underground along with the uranium core of the power plant. The uranium and Tegan's DNA allowed the virus to mutate into a radioactive human-alien hybrid monster which went insane and called itself the Gaiaphage, or World Eater. Instead of creating life, it started to cause other living things in its proximity to mutate. For example, human beings began to gain powers and animals began to evolve into bizarre monsters. The animal mutation that stood out the most to me when I first read the series were the Zeeks, which are worm-like territorial beings that live in the fields of the agricultural areas, described as roughly 1 meter in length with thousands of small legs. Their teeth are razor sharp, and when they consume their victims, they leave behind nothing but a pile of bones. Yeah, I did have a nightmare or two from them. How could you tell? Some humans were found to be more vulnerable than others because of their genetic connection to the Gaiaphage. One of the human characters, Diana Landris, had the ability to read and rank powers based on a 0 to 4 bar scale, and only Sam Temple and his half-brother Kane reached the 4-bar height, while a young autistic boy named Little Pete had power beyond the range. The Gaiaphage itself fears very little, and all those who come into contact with it are mentally affected. It is rivaled only by Little Pete, whom the Gaiaphage calls Nemesis. The Gaiaphage has access to all the powers ever discovered in the phase, as long as the person that has the power remains alive. If the owner of a power is ended or passes for any reason, the Gaiaphage will no longer be able to use that power, which is why it's reluctant to kill powerful humans. However, the only powers that the Gaiaphage actually seems to have itself are mimicry and mind control. Visually, it would appear as a mass of glowing green crystals that seethed along the ground in the mine shaft. When someone poofs, however, It appears before them as a being with green eyes and a fanged mouth. Throughout the series, this being manipulates a pack of mutant coyotes, directing them to capture a human with healing abilities named Lana after it discovers her healing power, using her to give one of his disciples named Drake a whip hand after Sam burned off Drake's arm in self-defense. It tried manipulating Little Pete into manifesting a body similar to a lethal nesting doll, with Pete eventually creating a female avatar named Nereza. The Gaiaphage used their mind control powers on another human to turn off the power plant, steal a nuclear rod from its core, and deliver it right to the mineshaft hideout in the desert so it could gain further power. This creature was able to convince another human that it was actually God, gaining her allegiance in an attempt to break free from the phase, which is described as an egg that this being grows inside. It aspires to be born into the outside world, but in order to do this, it needs to assimilate the power of the person who created the egg, its nemesis, Little Pete. The Gaiaphage attempts to eradicate the humans entirely by setting near-invisible mutant bugs on them. But Little Pete makes the bugs and himself vanish. Despite having its consciousness destroyed in the battle at the end of the last book in the series, the Gaiaphage is still alive in some capacity. Those who venture into the mineshaft exhibit extremely violent behavior and become very mentally disturbed, resulting in the mineshaft eventually being closed off permanently. Now, the Gaiaphage is still able to give those who go near it powers, although its range only extends as far as the mineshaft. Let me know in the comments if you've also read this incredible series. In third place, we have Pennywise. Yep, the dancing clown himself. Personally, I'm a big fan of most clowns. Heck, I even have some as friends, but this one in particular can stay far, far, far away. Pennywise, or simply It, originated in a void that contains and surrounds the universe, referred to as the Macroverse. It came to Earth before humans during an asteroid impact that struck the land where later the town of Derry would be built, sleeping for millions of years before preying on indigenous tribes and eventually the founders of Derry. Pennywise, as this entity is known, because it likes to appear mostly as a clown to children, feeds on human fear, preferring children because their fears are easier to interpret. Okay, not scary at all. Besides Pennywise's clown form, it takes the form of whatever its victims fear the most. I'm trying to think of what exact visual it would take for my greatest fear, but I'm not sharing that today. If you're in the mood to share, feel free to let me know in the comments how it would manifest for you. Pennywise is often referred to as male because of how commonly it manifests in its clown form, but may actually be female because its true form is a monstrous spider that lays eggs. Okay, yeah, big fear for me right there. Sorry, I fibbed. The actual pure form of Pennywise is a mass of swirling orange light called the Deadlights, and anyone who actually views this form goes insane. It exists in the same macroverse as Maturin, also known as the Turtle, whom Pennywise refers to as an equal. They both describe humans as toys, which doesn't really surprise me. Maturin created the universe and possibly others, such as Midworld from the Dark Tower books. Both Maturin and Pennywise were created by the Other, who is an omnipotent creator of the Stephen King universes. For whatever reason, Pennywise has fallen into a cycle where he sleeps for 27 years before coming up to feed on human fear for about a year. Gosh, I could use a 27-year snooze right now. In second place, we have Cthulhu. Probably the most mainstream of H.P. Lovecraft's creations, he's described it visually as a monster with a vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face is a mass of feelers, with a scaly, rubbery-looking body, prodigious claws on hind and forefeet, and long, narrow wings. In more simple terms, so I don't keep tripping over my words, Cthulhu resembles a green octopus/dragon/human caricature who is hundreds of meters tall, with webbed, human-looking arms and legs, and those wings I mentioned. Its head is depicted as similar to the entirety of a gigantic octopus, with an unknown number of tentacles surrounding its supposed mouth. For scale, big dinosaurs only grow to about 9 to 12 meters tall, so I don't like the idea of a molted octopus-looking thing that's going to be bigger than the biggest natural predator to humans that ever existed. As someone who has a teeny fear of ocean monsters, this is skirting that fear right now, so if I start shaking, y'all know why. He is one of the Great Old Ones, an old race of deities that are comparable to cosmic beings and archdemons in other works of fantasy. The first short story that mentions Cthulhu, The Call of Cthulhu, was published in Weird Tales in 1928 and established the character as a malevolent entity, hibernating within Riley, an underwater city in the South Pacific. The imprisoned Cthulhu is the source of constant subconscious anxiety for all mankind, and is also the object of worship both by many human cults, including some within New Zealand, Greenland, Louisiana, and the Chinese mountains, and by other Lovecraftian monsters known as the Deep Ones. His worshippers chant, in his house at Riley, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming, praying that the currently trapped and missing Cthulhu will eventually return. H.P. Lovecraft created a detailed genealogy for Cthulhu and made the character a central reference in his works. The short story, The Dunwich Horror, refers to Cthulhu, while The Whisper in Darkness hints that one of his characters knows the creature's origins, while the 1931 novella At the Mountain of Madness refers to the star spawn of Cthulhu, who warred with another race called the Elder Things before the dawn of man. While not as powerful as many other great old ones, and being dwarfed in scale by the outer gods that he serves, Cthulhu is still a very powerful entity. Being near godlike to humans, Cthulhu is immortal and he has great strength and can endure great amounts of damage and can only be ended by a near omnipotent power. Using those wings I mentioned earlier, he is capable of true flight. He possesses vast intelligence and awareness, as he knows all that is occurring in the universe at once, and he has great psychic abilities as he can communicate telepathically. Cthulhu's most notable trait is the fact that he, alongside the rest of his kin, cannot be comprehended by humans. When a human so much as looks at Cthulhu, they will almost certainly be driven mad by his visage. Where did I mention that before? You tell me. Oh, and Cthulhu was able to create a city out of nowhere. No biggie. In first place, we have Nyarlathotep, another fun one to pronounce. Also known as the Crawling Chaos, he is a fictional outer god in the Cthulhu mythos, created by, good old H.P. Lovecraft. He made his first appearance in the prose poem of the same name in 1920, and it's the spawn of Azathoth. Cripes, I'm getting all the big fun words today. If I mispronounce them, I promise I did look up pronunciations. I'm not perfect. Lovecraft describes him in his original appearance as a tall, lean man of dead black coloration, wholly devoid of either hair or beard, and wearing as his only garment a shapeless robe of some heavy black fabric. His feet were indistinguishable because of the table and the bench setting of where he appeared, but he must have been wearing something since there was a clicking whenever he changed position. The man did not speak and bore no trace of expression on his small, regular features. Nyarlathotep differs from the other deities in the Cthulhu mythos in a number of ways. Most of the outer gods are exiled to the stars, like Yibb-Tstill and Azathoth. And most of the great old ones are sleeping and dreaming like Cthulhu. Nyarlathotep, however, is active and frequently walks the earth in the guise of a human being, usually a tall, slim, joyous man. He has 1,000 other forms of manifestations, many reputed to be quite horrific and nightmare-inducing. I'll take the joyous man, please and thanks. In terms of comparison to other creatures, most of the outer gods have their own cults serving them, but Nyarlathotep seems to serve as he serves several cults and takes care of their affairs in the other outer gods' absences. Most outer gods use strange alien languages, while this one uses human languages and can easily pass for a human being if he chooses to do so. Finally, while most of them are all-powerful, yet evidently without clear purpose or agenda, this one seems to be deliberately deceptive and manipulative, and even uses propaganda to achieve his goals. In this regard, he is probably the most human-like among the outer gods. He enacts the will of the outer gods and is their messenger, heart, and soul, the immemorial figure of the deputy or messenger of hidden and terrible powers. He is also the servant of Azathoth, whose fitful, spastic wishes he immediately fulfills. Unlike the outer gods, spreading madness is more important and enjoyable than death and destruction to this one. It is suggested by some that he will destroy the human race and possibly the earth as well. And that's the end of today's list, leaving me tempted to add even more books to my must-read and should reread list, and also stop tripping over my tongue. Creepy things that make me think are up there for my personal favorite types of horror, but make sure to let me know what y'all thought. Did my assessments of non-Lovecraft works fit your criteria for cosmic horror? Why or why not? While you're at it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos.